I spent 12 hours in Shanghai.
Play the theme music.
Shanghai, and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alun, and I'm here with the ever artificial Adam.
Alan, is that because we've been inundated with emails from listeners saying that I look like I've had a spray tan and some bright white veneers fitted?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, Alan, are you literally doing the podcast with a sort of physical Android version of ChatGPT? Because Adam's starting to look more and more pinged up with metal and spray tan every week.
No, it's just this lamp. It's, you know, the lamp from the Patreon section a few episodes ago that I bought from this very kind but shrewd Chinese businessman.
Yeah.
Well, it's now made it all its way down to Queenstown with me, and it's really, really bright, actually, but it does give me this kind of golden, almost fake hue that I can't quite shake. So there it is, mate.
Yeah, well, a lot of the listeners are worried about you, and me included, to be honest. But speaking of shrewd Chinese businessmen, speaking of artificiality and all of that jazz, on last week's Patreon section, we informed the Patreon subscribers that I was going to Shanghai and then on to the Philippines, and I had a very problematic layover to contend with.
Yeah, I remember it well, mate. It's not an easy one, not an easy one at all. We sent a message out on the Instagram, should Alan leave the airport or not? And I hope that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, man, here's the crux of it. I was in Shanghai by way of going to the Philippines, and I had exactly 8.5 hours there. I know I said 12 in the intro, but that was a round up, baby. So I was landing and then flying out that evening. I had to sort it all out and figure out exactly what to do. And I decided to introduce a little bit of artificiality in the process. Unanimously, all of the listeners took to Instagram.com/@Tripology podcast, baby. They all sent us a message saying, Alan, you should definitely exit the airport, go on an adventure around Shanghai. I didn't know whether that was what I wanted to do.
No, I mean, you'd done a little bit of research, far more than I had. And I think you said the customs process, getting through security and all that sort of stuff, was going to be about 2.5 hours. Is that correct?
Well, that's it. You know what? I Googled it and it said it's going to take you an hour to leave the airport.
Yeah.
It's going to take you want to be at the airport at least 2 hours early to get back in.
True.
So already that 8 hours is significantly reduced. I personally didn't really want to leave the airport. I'm like an expert at staying in the airport. I wanted to just relax. I wanted to arrive in Shanghai. I wanted to go straight through sterile transit. I wanted to lay down, not worry about any of that jazz, and just enjoy my time there and edit an episode of Tripology. But because the listeners said, you've got to go, you've got to leave the airport, I felt a professional pulling to have to leave the airport.
Well, you have already said the word jazz twice in the first 5 minutes. So something's up. But Shanghai is not a city you've been to before, and it's one that I've been to a couple of times. I absolutely love it, and I can certainly see why people are encouraging you to do so. You love a little jaunt around an East Asian city.
I would, mate, but do you know what I decided to do? With all these factors spinning around my head, I took to ChatGPT and I gave it the absolute lowdown on the situation. I said, look, I want to stay in the airport.
Please take that into account, ChatGPT. Just bear in mind, I don't want to leave, all right?
I've got 8.5 hours to spend, but I run a travel podcast and all the listeners are telling me I have to go. What should I do? And it got back to me. It said, listen, I understand. You've got an emotional, personal desire to just relax at the airport, but you feel a professional obligation to leave. Here is an itinerary that guarantees to get you back to the airport on time and gives you a flavour of Shanghai.
Yeah, I mean, this is when the cart starts pushing the horse. It's when you're deliberately doing things for the pod. But fair play to ChatGPT. I wonder if it could dial into your inner traveller, because you're in a very specific moment in your life where, you know, you're on to live somewhere like the Philippines for a certain length of time. And maybe ChatGPT took that into account and thought, let's give him one last, Hail Mary.
Well, mate, let me tell you what's really cool about ChatGPT and why I think it's going to emerge as such an amazing travel tool. Because not only did it give me what transpired to be a perfect hour-by-hour itinerary that proved to be entirely accurate of what to do, when, and how to get back to the airport. But it also gave me things which would have unstuck me completely had I not had it. So, for example, it was like, you need to get an obfuscated VPN, otherwise you won't be able to use me once you're in Shanghai. So I was able to do that at the airport. It was like, oh, you've got to download Alipay because you can't use your Visa International cards anywhere in Shanghai. So I got to download that at the airport. These things that would have been horrible problems when I landed or required an intense amount of Googling were really, really simple because ChatGPT was just like, listen, mate, I know you basically don't want to leave the airport. Let me make it as simple as possible for you.
That is class. That is class. I'm always very cynical about this sort of stuff. And Alan, if there's anyone on this earth that knows that I'm a technophobe, my goodness, is it you? And I do apologise profusely for that. But I would always be a little bit worried that maybe Alipay are investors in ChatGPT or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could see how that could work quite well.
I feel you, but do you know what the thing is? They actually just don't accept international Visa cards in anywhere but like hotels. And for the maglev, I was able to do it. I'll talk about that in a second.
Ooh.
But it was actually an essential to have a QR scanning pay function. So
yeah, cool.
Whether Alipay were like behind the computer posing as ChatGPT going, go on, and why not use Ali VPN, the brand new obfuscated VPN service?
Yeah, we've got this tourist package, especially for people that are going to Shanghai for less than 24 hours. We wrapped it up in a nice little bunch, and it only costs you, how much is a lot of money in China these days?
Yeah, well, do you know what? It was actually very, very useful. So I decided to do it. I decided to go for it. I got my 24-hour tourist visa and I ran out of the airport and got onto the fastest commercial train in the world. Have you ever heard of this? It's called the maglev.
Magnetic levitation. Is that what it's an abbreviation of?
I hope so, mate. Otherwise, I don't know what was going on because that thing has no physical contact with the track at all. And it speeds up to like 430 kilometers an hour.
I'm not surprised that the fastest train in the world or commercial train is in China. I'm a bit disappointed it's not in Japan. But, I mean, what sort of experience was it like? How long were you on it for?
Oh, we're ever so fast. That was my experience of it. It's basically as fast.
400 miles.
The Shinkansen is almost as fast as this maglev. So they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
But this one just dares to go faster in a commercial setting. The journey from the airport all the way into central Shanghai is only 7 minutes. So that's nice, isn't it?
7 minutes? Well, yeah, I suppose it would be at those speeds.
Yeah.
Does it reach top speed on the way in?
Yeah. It goes right up to 400 kilometers an hour. I suppose it could push out an extra 30 if it really tried.
Yeah. My goodness. That's absolutely incredible. And then in terms of the interior of the train, I mean, I've been on my fair few Shinkansens with a little Eki-ben, little Beto box there. What's the experience like on the train? Is it fairly, futuristic and screens everywhere? Alipay adverts all over the shop?
Yeah, there's scarcely an Eki-ben in sight, It's basically just a stark internal environment. Everyone's hair flying back in the wind as you fly at 430 kilometers into Shanghai. It's almost so fast that you can't really process what's happening out of the window.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. 7 minutes already, ChatGPT is winning. You're sitting on that train thinking, all right, this was the right move.
Yeah, ChatGPT was like, you almost don't have to count for transit time in your equation. You'll get back to the airport in no time. Just fly into central Shanghai. It was only once I'd arrived, all excited, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed by the experience on the maglev, I arrived in Shanghai, and the majesty of that beautiful train was quickly replaced by the annoyance of tapping on with Alipay and getting onto an incredibly slow subway system to inch a little bit closer to East Nanjing, which is where I wanted to start my journey. Somewhat ruins the beauty of the fastest train in the world when it's immediately succeeded by one of the slower subway systems.
Yeah, I mean, they've invested all their money into one area and totally neglected another. But I mean, I've not been to Shanghai for a really long time. I definitely rode the subway there, and I wonder if you came across any photographers any sort of very friendly photographers that were, they walk around sort of proactively asking if people would like a photo with them. Did you come across any people like that? Because I'm absolutely certain, not unlike the tea house scam that we've mentioned a few times on the pod all those years ago, I think it's one of those. It'd be interesting to see whether that still exists.
I think because I'd just been on an 8-hour flight, and actually longer. Goodness me, it was like an 11-hour flight.
ChatGPT, how long was my flight?
No one wanted to speak to me or try to engage me or even made eye contact. And I think that was because I was sort of losing consciousness on the subway, like someone who basically didn't want to be bothered. So didn't see any photographers. I felt, it's really annoying going on that subway. It's a bit like taking a Ferrari to a bus stop, isn't it? You're suddenly just in a cage, sort of spinning down the inner tubes of Shanghai. But mate, when I left the subway, I realised that everything had gone wrong. And I actually messaged ChatGPT, my new travel buddy, a single sentence.
Right, go on. What was the sentence?
I said, ChatGPT, we forgot to account for the weather.
Oh, you had no idea about the weather. Had you not done a little... I suppose that's the trouble, mate. You've got to be careful. When you use ChatGPT to that level, there are things that maybe you fall short on because you want it to give you every single piece of information it possibly can. I don't know if that's a failure of ChatGPT or maybe you got a little bit lost there just putting all your eggs in one basket.
Well, I'm trying a new type of travel. I'm a very experienced traveller, Adam. So I'm so used to doing all this planning. But this just seemed like such a holistic bit of micro-planning that it seemed to make perfect sense. And I said to my generative processing model that I love so dearly, I said, you remembered the obfuscated VPN? You remembered Alipay? You remembered all that jazz? Why didn't you account for the weather? And it said, no trouble, sir. Here's a new weather itinerary for times in Shanghai where the rain's coming down thick and fast. And it's a bit late for that, ChatGPT. I'm already in the midst of the sunshine plan. So we just had a bit of a disagreement, me huddled in the rain, typing frantically to my little server.
What sort of rain are we talking about? Is it absolutely thrashing down or is it just a bit of a spit?
We're the kind of rain that meant the pedestrian section of Nanjing, which is the central downtown of Shanghai, the Bund, right? It was almost empty because it was so rainy.
Oh dear. Okay, fair enough. And a lot of your activities that ChatGPT had recommended obviously were outdoors. So what do you do in that situation then? Surely you looked at what was offered to you and you thought maybe I could tick a couple of these off.
I just copped it, mate. I obviously have my backpack with me. I have everything, it's all there. I just thought, we're in this now. Let's get wet.
So you went out and got wet, took a couple of pictures, which I've seen. What do you think of the Bund the first time you seen it in the rain? I mean, you can't change that.
Ever so dark and soggy, isn't it, the Bund? Goodness me. It was like a...
Dark and soggy. I like the Bund. I like it a lot.
As I was walking along the riverside, there was an absolute crash of lightning, the likes of which I had never heard before. In like war movies where a bomb goes off near someone and it kind of, the whole audio goes quiet and there's like ringing and there's dust everywhere and they're searching to get their bearings. It was honestly like that. This lightning flash and the noise of thunder all at once happened to the point where everyone on the Bund, everyone walking down the riverside started screaming because it honestly sounded like an act of war.
Shit. Oh, that must have been really scary. My God. So what do? You just huddled in under a building, try to stay dry, seek out some good food?
Well, by that point, I was so reliant on AI. I was just quickly getting ChatGPT out. What do I do? There's lightning. I'm scared. Can you get in contact with my friends and family? Why am I here? But then I took a deep breath and remembered that although ChatGPT is useful, I have also travelled for a decade prior to its creation, so I thought I can handle this, no problem.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I love the Bund, mate. I do like it. I remember when I was in Shanghai, I was with a dear old friend of mine, Francois, who has got mentioned on the podcast before, I believe, different story in China. But he's an architect, and it was really cool to be in Shanghai with him, especially around the Bund, because there's a number of different buildings. If you've never seen the Bund, I absolutely love a cityscape and a skyline just as much as any mountain range. But even though I think all of the buildings have been designed by different architects, and they are wildly different through different eras as well, it almost looks like a little bit in the same way that Hong Kong's skyline does. It looks like they've been designed as one piece. And I absolutely love that. Like I know that it was obviously pissing down. I'm sorry you didn't get to enjoy it in its full glory, but it's an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, I liked it. And do you know what? I was very, very, very glad that I did leave the airport in the end. I thought, as I was meandering around Shanghai, what an absolute shame it would be to not have just made the effort to go out. And I understand the attraction of staying in the airport, and that was what my instincts told me to do, because once you've accounted for the time into the city, the time getting back in and doing security again, I really only had 4 hours to enjoy Shanghai. But I made the most of it. I went to Yew Gardens. I'd had some amazing soup dumplings. I really felt like China was the first place I ever traveled to back in 2015. So
yeah, wow.
I realized I missed it, and I was so glad that I made the journey.
Yeah, it is a place I wish I'd been more. You know, obviously I had a layover when I was on my way back from East Asia just before Christmas. Just quickly, before we go to the mid-break, talking about your entry into China for this 24-hour visa, were you know, listeners of the pod will know that I had a hell of a time trying to get in when I had a layover there in Beijing. Was yours pretty smooth sailing?
Do you ever strategically look at the security officers and think who you'd have the best time with?
I mean, I've been doing that recently with the cashiers in supermarkets in New Zealand because I often forget my passport. So little tip for you guys, if you're a foreigner in New Zealand, they don't accept non-New Zealand pieces of identity. So I basically go to the person that I think I can intimidate the most. So you go, yeah, I'm 35. Please don't ask me because I really want the alcohol. But no, I certainly know what you mean. In my case, I only had 2 to choose from, and I was almost escorted to the one who denied me entry. So go on, how did it happen?
I basically just looked down the row, saw this young Chinese girl who I thought basically she'll let me in. I queued behind her, and I almost had the visa before I'd got to the counter. So it was easy.
Fair enough. You're just more charming.
That's travel experience for you, Adam. That's travel experience for you. And with that, let's go on a brief meditation break.
I hate arriving at an airport and needing to prove I have an onward ticket before boarding the plane.
Oh, it's the worst. I don't know when I'm going to leave the country. Okay, I'm a traveller.
That's why instead of buying a flight, we use a flight rental service.
Yeah, it's so convenient. You just find a flight, rent it for 48 hours, show it to the assistant, they let you on the plane.
Onwardticket.com, they're a great company. Click the link in the description. Support the podcast.
Like a Shanghainese woman stamping a visa in a passport before the client even steps up to the podium, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain. Adam, that's the kind of thing that only experience can account for. Being able to suss out which guard is going to give you the easiest entry, the easiest ride. But I did make a crucial mistake when I was in Shanghai.
Oh dear. And now these are few and far between, the travel mistakes that you make, and I love traveling with you because it rarely happens. You know, we're usually pretty good decision makers between us, quite a good team. So I'm keen to hear what this was.
You'd have absolutely hated this one, mate. It's finished in the Yew Gardens. The Yew Gardens are these absolutely beautiful, ornate, you guessed it, they're gardens in Shanghai that you can go and explore and experience. And it's just picturesque in the city. And I'd done all that. That was one of the things that ChatGPT recommended, you know what I mean? And then I just pushed it. The weather had calmed down. I'd already had some great soup dumplings, but there was this one place, and it had become like my white whale in that it was a bit off the beaten track, but I had just enough time spare to get it, the best soup dumpling in all of Shanghai. So I thought, I can just about get to this soup dumpling and then get back on the maglev with enough time to feel comfortable at the airport. You feeling me?
Yeah, I like it. Sounds a little bit dangerous. Sounds like there's a bit of pressure and a bit of tension. But to get the best dumplings in Shanghai, I mean, of course, why not give it a go? Now, I've got to ask, as someone who would be doing something very similar to this himself, where did you find this information that they were the best dumplings in Shanghai? Who's voting this restaurant?
That was a Google job, you know? Like initially, I went on Google Maps and I was sort of searching around the area, but then I went on Reddit. Reddit's really good for personal recommendations, I tend to find, because you get actual local people typing out what's the best one.
Yeah, agree.
But this was supposed to be one of the. It's called Gia Gia.
Okay.
It's just renowned for having great soup dumplings. So I bookended it all the way to this. Can you say bookended it, or is it just booked it? I don't know how that slang worked. But I literally bookended it as well because it was the end of my journey.
Yeah, I think in Canada they say booked it, but I quite like booking. If you say anything with enough confidence, mate, it makes its way into vocabulary. It might not be now, but it might be in 5 years.
So as I was on the way there, the rain starts again, but heavier this time. I'm just absolutely soaked. I'm drenched. I meander all the way up to this dumpling shop. I see it, but the sign is all in Chinese, right? So
what a shock.
Google Maps is showing me, well, I thought there'd be an English translation, but Google Maps is showing me this is the spot, right?
Yeah.
There's rain falling on my phone, so I can't operate the screen properly. I go in there, I order this soup dumpling. This lady brings it and brings it with a straw.
Okay.
Now, I've had soup dumplings where you chopstick them into the mouth. It's like a bursting, soupy pleasure in your mouth.
Yeah.
This was like you stab the dumpling with the straw and then suck out the crab roe. Right? That sounds pretty hardcore.
Yeah. I've not had those myself. I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and specifically some people who travel or around China or live in China. I don't know if I've ever seen the straw dumpling. So I'm interested.
So she gives me the straw and makes it's inconfusable, the mime of sucking up the internals of this dumpling. She goes, and I go, all right, okay. There's only 2 ways to interpret that, and I'm going to...
And we don't need a translation.
I'm going to suck the dumpling in.
That's fine.
So I'm eating it. I think this dumpling ain't that good, though. I mean, I appreciate that it's, a little bit of a challenging concept, slurping out the innards of a dumpling, but it's not the most amazing. I think the dumplings I had earlier were much better. So I go on Google Maps and I'm looking at the reviews and I see someone's posted a picture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, that wasn't the front of this restaurant. And I look out the window. I'm only gone and I'm opposite. I'm across the street, Adam.
Oh, no. I mean, it's easily done. But, I mean, was there any point leading up to that where you thought, I don't think this is it. It just doesn't feel right. Was there no queue or anything? Is this not...
This restaurant was packed. Absolutely packed. Whereas the one across the street, not a soul in there. So I can only assume that either... the one across the streets had a severe decline in popularity, or that woman's soup mimes have reached viral success, and the Shanghainese people just absolutely adore her.
People don't go to the shop for the dumplings.
There you go.
Were you left feeling a little bit demoralised, like you'd missed a trick almost? Do you regret not going into the other shop? Hang on, if we were there together, we would have just gone in the other shop and had that as well.
I had that thought. I was like, I'm so glad Adam's not here, because I want now to go back to the airport because it's time, and he would not be able to psychologically deal with the fact that he'd not had the best dumpling.
As per the internet, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, yeah, it sounds like they were. The thing about Chinese food, and this is just from my own experience, is that I think we have maybe slightly different palates, people from the West and people over in East Asia. But Chinese food, when it's good, is some of the best food on earth. I really believe that.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
And I'm afraid to say it, guys, but it's not the sweet and sour pork balls you're getting down the local Chinese in your town in the UK. I can promise you that much. It's not the chicken chow mein or the sweet and sour
and sour pork balls.
It's not the bloody cashew kung pao, any of that other bullshit. It's like Chinese food, and let's not forget, it is an enormous country that's incredibly diverse and has sensational cuisine all over it, and with regional differences and just amazing history as well. It's so interesting, the food and food culture there. So if you're just going to eat, then by all means.
I honestly think it was worth leaving the airport just for the culinary experiences. So thank you, Tripological audience, for keeping me honest and true. But making that mistake, going into the wrong dumpling shop, it made me think about travel in a wider context and the experiences I had whilst taking the flight to Shanghai and then on to the Philippines where I am now. I wanted to play a little sort of mind game with you where we analyse, what are the telltale signs of someone's like an absolute expert expat or a bit of a nomadic twat?
Okay. Mind go. I don't know where this is going, but I'm getting putting my shoulders back here, getting ready to use my brain. Come on.
Well, it's often been a lament of mine, and I know that me and you have slightly differing opinions on this, but I want to talk it through. What is your hardline perspective on people standing up as soon as the plane lands? Because it honestly makes me angrier than almost anything else in travel. And I think it's the surefire telltale sign of someone not being good at traveling.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we probably are down the same end of the spectrum. It's just I'm slightly closer to the middle than you are. And it isn't the reason why you think it's ridiculous because you're saving almost no time. You get up, you stand up to basically wait the same amount of time, right?
Yeah, just absolutely sit the fuck down. What are you doing? Is my basic perspective. So I want to talk. Yeah. We have a lot of long-term, really skilled travelers in our audience. And I know, just from personal experience, from talking to a lot of backpackers, some of the good travelers in our community will do this. And I apologize for offending. But let me just lay down my perspective. The plane lands. You absolutely know that those doors aren't going to open straight away and you're going to be able to get off the plane and go and collect your bags or go through immigration or all of that. You know that that's not how it works. What happens is the plane lands, everyone stands up and inevitably waits in the aisle for 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, it is.
So why bother? Just stay in your seat.
Yeah, it's the claustrophobia then ensues, doesn't it? And I remember the first time I took a flight in India, it was almost comical. Like, I don't want to be calling out one nation here, but it is so funny to listen to the person on the tannoy, whether it's the air stewardess or the pilot say, we are going to be opening the door soon. Please remain seated while the seatbelt sign is illuminated. And then inevitably, 1, 2, blow. And it happens almost every flight, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Doesn't matter where you are, almost every flight. And I always think to myself, as soon as someone does it, because I'm never the first. I mean, I rarely do it, but yeah, I just say to myself, like, are they deaf?
I've never been on a flight where it's not happened. And also, my least favorite thing of all is when I'm in the aisle seat and the person next to me starts like sort of getting up, sort of like looking at me like I'm blocking them from being able to get up. And I want to turn around and say, no, sorry. The one privilege I get for not having the window is that I am absolutely in control of whether I'm standing up or not, and I'm not. You are sitting here until the bitter end because everyone. Yeah. The one argument that you could make, that you could potentially have some leeway in my mind is that you've been sat down for a long time, and it's like finally the chance to get up. But to those people, I would say, get up and have a walk around during the flight.
Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. I'm normally, for a long haul, I am up on my feet walking around and doing something akin to a yoga stretch at the back for probably 40% of the flight, I would say.
Yeah, I would argue that's on the extreme end of things, but to each their own. You're doing pull-ups on the bathroom door.
I think what maybe makes it even more strange is that it's such a simple thing. It's just such a simple rule to follow. And people just can't do it. It almost compounds the issue or makes it more frustrating that people they're just not willing to sit down for another couple of minutes.
Yeah.
While the plane, while the doors open, while people sort themselves out. And, what are you going to do? You're going to get your bag maybe 30 seconds earlier, but then you always have to hold it in a really awkward position. And some people are putting their backpack on their back and, annoying the people that are sitting down still, or I don't know. I'm with you, mate. I am with you. If it's a hard and fast yes or no, should it be allowed, then no, just stay seated until we're told otherwise.
It's a surefire sign that someone's a bit of a travel rookie to me. Adam, if our audience wants to get in touch about whether they do this and why, try and justify it to me. If there's one way to goad me into a very personal email response, it's by providing me with some justification of why it is that you stand up as soon as the plane lands. I want to hear it. That's tripologypodcast.com, and there's a hostile common room form where you can write to us then. Adam, I have a story of how I was the biggest travel rookie of all on a plane, but I'm going to save it for our Patreon section, which comes after the show. You can listen to it at patreon.com/Tripology Podcast.
Amazing. And also, you're more than welcome to get in touch via Instagram at Tripology Podcast. Send us a message on there as well. We're pretty active on it, and we hope you enjoy the content. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the Lost and Found. And, yeah, what an amazing time. Don't stand up before we're told to do so.
Yeah, hear about all how I'm a travel rookie and that. But on the next week of Tripology, we have ever such a surprise for you guys. So make sure you tune in next week. It's going to be an absolute blinder of an episode. We'll see you there.
See you there. Bye.
Bye.